This courseware video provides an overview of the Fusion 5 interface. It is intended for artists who have not been exposed to the Fusion interface in previous versions. Here we see an empty Fusion window, with no compositions open. Across the top of the screen we see the File, View, Window, and Help menus standard to most Windows applications. Immediately below this we find the default toolbar containing buttons for common operations like loading and saving compositions, undo and redo, and opening the bins. We also see a list of toolbar buttons used to add commonly used tools to the composition. Click on the Bin button to display the bins dialog. We can also use the keyboard shortcut Control-B to toggle display of the bins. Bins are a handy place to organize footage, compositions, and tool settings. Double-clicking in the composition in this bin opens it for editing. The composition is opened with the flow editor visible in the work area. The work area is the region on the bottom half of the interface. There are 5 tabs contained in the work area. Each displays a different view of your composition. The Console tab shows error messages and warnings from Fusion, as well as the printed output of any scripts you may have run. The Timeline editor provides a time-based view of your composition, perfect for trimming footage and adjusting animation splines. The Spline editor shows splines used to drive the animation of paths and controls in your composition. The Comments tab, labeled with a blue and white icon with the letter I, can be used to record notes about the composition, which is particularly handy when you are working on a composition with other artists. Finally, the Flow area is the main working area for Fusion artists. The Flow area contains a schematic-like overview representing the tools that make up your composition. Each rectangular tool tile represents one of the tools in your composition. The lines drawn between the tools represent the path the image takes as they move from tool to tool. This is called the flow, since the way the images flow through the composite can easily be compared to water flowing through pipes. Many of the tool tiles are color-coded to help identify the role they play in the composite. For example, Loader and Creator tools are colored green, while 3D tools are colored blue, and Saver tools are coded with a light pink color. Selecting a tool will cause the tool's controls to appear in the display area to the left of the view. Selecting a tool will cause the tool's controls to appear to the right of the work area. If multiple tools are selected, then a control panel will appear for each tool. Use the arrow at the top of the control panel to collapse or expand display of these panels. Above the tool controls and work area, we find the display views. Fusion defaults to showing 2 fixed display views, one on the left and one on the right. You can add additional floating views as needed by selecting Window, New View. Display views are used to monitor the output of the tools in your composite. To view the output of a tool in one of the views, you would right-click on the tile in the flow and select the desired display from the View On submenu. Note the number listed beside each entry in the menu. These are keyboard shortcuts that can be used to toggle the display of the tool in the associated view. For example, select the Merge 3D 1 tool and then select the 2 key on the keyboard to display it in the right display view. The fastest way to display a tool in one of the views, however, is to click on the tool and drag it directly into the view. The display will show a 2D image or a 3D environment depending on which tool it is viewing. When an image is displayed in the view, you can pan the view by holding the middle mouse button down and dragging the mouse. To scale the in or out, click the middle mouse button and then the left mouse button, then drag to the left to zoom out or to the right to zoom in. Some tools will display a toolbar on the side of the view when selected. A toolbar found at the bottom of each view can be used to set various options for the view. For more information, see the Display View chapter in the manual or review the Display View video in this courseware. Above the display views in the main toolbar, you will find 4 layout buttons. These can be used to control the layout of the composition. Clicking on the first button changes to one display view with the tool controls maximized. The second button splits the display view area between the left and the right display views, leaving the tool control area maximized. The third button shows one display view, but now the tool controls have been set to align to the bottom of the display view. And the fourth button once again splits the display views between left and right. To adjust the ratio of display view to work area, click and drag the splitter between the two views. You can also adjust the width of the fixed display views by dragging the splitter bar that separates them from each other. Adjust the splitter between the controls and the work area to make more room for tool controls. Below the work area, you will find the time ruler. This area is used to set the length of the composition, called the global range, and the portion of the composition that will be rendered, called the render range. The text edit boxes are not labeled, but holding your mouse over each one displays the name of the edit box in the status bar immediately below the time ruler. To the far right of the time ruler is the current time edit box. Changing frames in your project by entering a value in this edit box, or by clicking directly in the time ruler itself. Playback buttons in the time ruler can be used to play the composition as quickly as Fusion can render each frame, or to step through the frames one by one. As each frame is rendered, it is placed in the RAM cache so that Fusion will not need to render the frame again unless the tool or one of its sources changes. The time ruler indicates the status of the cache for a selected tool by drawing a thin green line. The buttons to the right of the playback buttons can be used to set the interactive properties of the composition, including the quality, whether motion blur is calculated, and the various proxy settings. For more information on the time ruler, see the time ruler video in this courseware or the Basics chapter of the manual. That concludes our overview of the Fusion interface. In the next video, we will create our first composition from scratch.